You know how when you're writing a paper and flipping English class, you write a rough draft and stuff to try to wind up with the most refined, least wordy, most creative writing type of thing where you're saying the most with the least amount of words. Okay, I keep trying to do that here and it ain't working. And so instead of trying to tell you everything about the difference between the conscious and the subconscious mind, I'm just going to go out of pocket and probably make, I don't know, well, by the time I quit, it'll probably be over 220 videos of explaining it. But there's already probably 20, but here's another one. Because the difference between the conscious and subconscious mind is the difference between hell and a chance to escape it. And that hell is the one you're in. You know, in this place, dude, it's unfortunate kind of... You're in hell until you go through it here on earth as a human being. You know, you're born and trauma just begins. And we have a giant parenting problem. It's impossible to raise a child without giving them trauma. And maybe you were lucky and fortunate and it was a very mild experience for you, but you're born and all these aliens are putting their hands on you and stuff. I say this and I'll say it again. If your eyes were open when you were born, you'd never get over it. It's like that's why your eyes are closed. Because already it's such a traumatic experience, dude. And we wind up just throwing this shit up all into our world until we heal from it. And until you heal, until you go through hell here, it's like that's where you're at. And it's unfortunate, kind of, but not really, because it gives you a chance to enter heaven. And heaven and hell, I would say, is the difference between the subconscious and conscious mind. Is the difference. It's what matters through the removal of everything that you thought matters but doesn't. But does matter because it's just fucking you into a corner all the time. Because you think it does. And I'm not here to tell you it doesn't in that way. That's how it seems. And you know, that's on the level of the individual, and I respect very highly how it seems, despite what it might be at its truth. But how it seems in itself is not it. That's how it seems. And what it's seeming with is your subconscious mind. This objective world that one you experience through your conscious mind, you don't see it. You're not seeing what's in front of you. Your perception of the world depends more heavily on your subconscious mind's interpretation of it than it does on the experience you're having, than it does on what you're looking at. It's not about what you're looking at. It's about how you see it, what you see, and what you make of it. That's your subjective experience, being drawn from this objective world. You seam them together, and it gives you how it seems. This world that you live in right now, you call it my world. Okay, nobody else lives in that world. You know, you have these ideas of other people and who they are. Please, God, for everyone else alive. Parents are incapable of doing this with their child. Understand that they're not in the same world that you're in, and your idea of this person is an idea, a thought in your mind of them as they go on about their daily life by the second, having an experience of themselves in their own world that you are not in, that you do not understand. That is on the back of empathy, which you can develop that understanding. We each have a subjective experience of the objective world around us that gives us our world, the world we live in. We get asked the same objective question. We develop two different subjective answers as what that means to us. Neither is wrong. Nobody can tell you what you see. And what you see is yourself, and that's the difference. That's what makes us unique individuals, is the subjective experience we draw from this objective world. It is a reflection and a sheer projection of our subconscious mind. And, dude, you know, your idea of the mind itself is subjective. It's how you think it is, what you think you know. And for the longest time of our lives, we go thinking that's the way it is. It's the way that is to us. Other people see it different ways. And it's not because one of us are stupid. It's the truth. As soon as you recognize it as the subjective experience, it becomes truth. Realizing that's the world you live in can snap you out of it and allow you to establish separation from it and draw you into the greater world in which you're experiencing your own. The world you live in, how you see it, and who you are in it, this story you have of it, this understanding, is a reflection of the subconscious mind and the self that you are identified as within it. And to enter the conscious mind from such a place, you don't go after the conscious mind. You go after this very subconscious mind you're identified as, the very subconscious mind you're using to formulate an understanding of the subconscious mind, and experience it as that instantly, almost as this thing you're looking for it with, as if you take off a pair of glasses and see the glasses that you've been looking for on your face, and you become that is consciousness. You don't arrive at consciousness going after consciousness. You arrive at consciousness through an understanding. I can't stand that, dude. You arrive at consciousness through an understanding of the subconscious state you are in. Only through the lens of the conscious mind can you experience your subconscious mind. So when you experience and understand the subconscious mind as not this idea or of a definition, but through witnessing your own, that is the point of consciousness. You see yourself, that's self-awareness. You are no longer identified as this self, you are now aware of it. And you do that through your higher self. And you're looking at your lower self that you just thought you were. And we talk about the difference between the conscious and subconscious mind is like their tasks and faculties, and this does this and this does this. No, it's the difference of who you are. Your identity is subject to your understanding of these two parts of the mind. The mind is something that is much more important. We make it out to be this giant important thing, but we talk about how to manifest and how to change your life. We got to understand the mind. It's the power of the mind is that it understands itself and snaps into a state of consciousness where then it can be harnessed to do all these different things. Until then, you're chasing your tail in a circle, not realizing that you have yet to utilize the option of the mind that will allow you to use it in that way. And in fact, you're holding yourself back greatly with it in going after those things. Instead of going after the mind itself and an understanding of the mind itself, you're trying to figure out how to use it to do these other things. And it won't happen until you understand what it is enough that the very understanding of that is your experience, which snaps you out of it and takes you from and lets you realize you're riding on the back of a horse. It's like standing up from a chair that you've been sitting in and realizing you can fucking walk around, and now you can carry this chair with you, roll around in it, but until then you're just stuck in this chair, really asleep, thinking about all the places you can go. When really you need to understand the mind and stand up to realize all the places that you can go. And this level of understanding, which is the truth of it in your experience, does not come through one studying session, through one self-help book or one YouTube video. It comes through a determination to, and with the conscious aim of your understanding to come in this way as the experience of your own subconscious mind over time, to build the space in your mind for it to fall into place when you witness it. Like this. Imagine you're in class and you don't know you're a human being. You don't really realize you're a human being, and say we're in kindergarten and we start getting taught about the human being, but nobody's going to tell us that's what we are. At what point do you realize, oh fuck, I'm a human being? It's kind of like that. that happens. It takes time, and it waits for your mind to get in some place where it can bear it and handle it before you're able to see it. Just like your eyes being closed when you're born, your eyes open just when you're able to bear what you're looking at and seeing. It's like an etherical representation of that exact idea. But with this one, your eyes aren't going to open naturally. You've got to, or they will, but very slowly. And if you want it to happen, that is to prepare yourself for it to. Because it's not going to until then, because you'll melt like a freaking ice cream in the middle of the summer, dude. You'll go to the cuckoo club. This misunderstanding, or we don't think we know what the mind is. Psychology openly talks. We don't really understand quite what the mind is, but unfortunately, as outer, if we're not in the mix of psychology, we think psychology knows what the mind is. So we take to this ideas of psychology and sum it up as what the mind is, and with our own mind, think we know, and just fill a tiny portion of it with this tiny idea of what it is, when it's what we're using to do that and much more. And it's that is the hurdle to overcome. It's a word hurdle, the mind. Like God, like the self, things that you are. But you have created some external idea of it and think you know it as that, and lose it to that. You lose yourself to your idea of it. You lose God to the idea of God, and you lose your mind to the idea of you have of it. Like parents lose their children to the idea they have of them. They sum them up as their child, and that child can never become anything more as their own individual, because it's their child, and there's no way it's anything else. And that thing can become its own individual, and it'll go on about its life completely separate and no longer with its parents, all because the parents couldn't realize that it's much more than that. And this beautiful fucking thing goes on. That is their child. Was their child. But everything beyond that it has become, just shorthanded they are of it. The very thing that it's of. And that's what happens with the mind. You don't want to shorthand yourself in thinking you know what the mind is. You don't understand yourself. You don't understand the self. You don't sit here and know what your ego is and just holster it and put it in your pocket every time it rears its ugly head. That ain't what's happening. You're identified as these things. Nothing wrong with it. But thinking you're not is just going to keep you there for the rest of your life. And you're being shorthanded on true, objective meaning and transcendence. I shit you not, color becomes more colorful. Things get sharper. Life becomes more meaningful. Feelings get more intense. You shine in the fucking mirror. You understand why people are trying to hurt you instead of being hurt by them. You have an answer to the question of why. You can create art as a sheer projection of the world you're in, and it just be instantly meaningful at its completion at all times, anytime. You can create new things, have new ideas, become who you want to be as this person that's for other people, this character. Change its role. Write a book, write your story. It's fucking, you owe it to yourself, dude. And if who you are is somebody that's not too caught up in this past trauma and misunderstanding of the subconscious mind that is causing harm to other people and shit. Who could blame you, man? What more could you really want than to just not make other people's lives harder and getting away from your own? You know, who could have a problem with that? This shit is hard. And if you ran up beside me right now, butt-ass naked, going down the street, yelling at things, I wouldn't, I don't blame, I get it. I mean, shit happens, dude. If all you're doing is using Netflix to get away from yourself and keep your mind asleep, there ain't nothing wrong with that, really, man. If you're in a relationship with another person and y'all call it unhealthy and you sit there and argue all the time, but you really just use each other to kind of balance each other's shit out, that's nothing wrong with that relationship, man. Nothing wrong with it. You could not have kids until you've grown out of being a child and not count on the birth of your child to make you an adult, an individual, and give this kid more shit to deal with. But nobody understands that's what's happening, so you can't blame them for doing it. Having a kid to heal and get away from themselves and filling their holes with it on accident and expecting it to keep them full for the rest of its life. Like a dog. Like a pet. You know, we don't understand these things or what we're doing, and you can't blame anybody for doing them. It's just, it's hard, and it almost only happens, and you wind up making this choice because there ain't another one you have to make. It's the only option you got. And it's a real desperation with desperation that you go about trying to sort all this out and get better from it. It's not something that you're just going to fucking sit there and go read a book about and decide this is what you're going to do. It's something you're trying to understand that's already happening to you. And all that is the conscious and subconscious mind, and it's much more. It's all the same thing, dude. It's everything. It's everything.